Hello. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hi. Or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. But hello. Hi. Can everyone see me? Can everyone hear me? If you can, say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're from. I'd love to say hello to everyone today. Hello. How's it all going? How are you all? I'm doing well. For those of you who do not know, my name is Teacher or Tutor Greg, and I am here in the United States, and I am a tutor here on Cambly. I've been doing this for a couple of years now, almost 4 years now, which is crazy, but I'm very excited to be here. All right, let's see who we have here today. All right, hello from Brazil. Hello from Italy. Hello, everyone. Hello from the UK. All right. It's great to see you all here today. I'm so happy you could join me. Uh, you know, Here in the United States, it is now fall. So, could you tell me what is your favorite fall or autumn uh, activity? Like for me, I love walking through the leaves in fall. So I love walking through the leaves when it's fall or autumn. What do you like to do? Let's see who we have here as well. All right, we have Haiti. Hello. We have people from Algeria. Hi. From India. Hello from Saudi Arabia. Excellent. Hello from Pakistan. Hello from Brazil. All right, so we were from Pakistan and Brazil. Wonderful. Hello, everyone. Hello. It's so great to see you all today. I'm excited to talk about our topic tonight. All right. Hello from Kabul. All right. It's great to see everyone from all around the world. I think it's so wonderful that we can come together on here and from all different parts of the world and share a lesson together. It's very fun. All right. Hello from Cyprus. Hello from Kashmir. Hello, Sri Lanka. Wonderful. Rain. People like rain in the fall. The rain in the fall is very nice. Hello from Turkey. All right. We'll wait just another minute or two, and we'll go ahead and get started on our lesson today. Let's see. Greetings from Moldova. Wonderful. It's so great to see everyone here today. I hope you're all having a great fall, or it could be springtime where you are, depending on which hemisphere you're in, which is always exciting. I'm in the northern hemisphere, so it's fall, going to turn into winter soon. Actually, here in the United States, we have what's called daylight savings time. So this weekend, our clocks will change. So we'll go back an hour. So what is now 8 a.m. will soon be 7 a.m. this time next week. So that's kind of fun how we fall back. Some people like it, some people don't. Yeah, hello, Illinois. All right. Hello, everyone. It is great to see you all today. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm excited for our lesson today. So today, we're going to talk about a topic that I like a lot. It's called countable and uncountable nouns. So these are important because how you talk about the noun will make you sound much more like a fluent native speaker. So a countable noun is exactly as it sounds. It is an item that can be counted. Now, one of the hard parts is there is not a lot of rules around countable, which nouns are countable and which nouns are uncountable. They are usually just have to be memorized. Okay, but there are some slight rules for uncountable nouns. So an uncountable noun, unlike a countable noun, is a noun that cannot be counted, right? There is no specific number that we can use for that noun. They're also referred to sometimes as mass nouns, so like a mass meaning a lot. So they can stand alone without an article. So if we remember from some of our other lessons, right, an article is something like a, an, or the. And we can put that before our noun when it is countable. And we have to unless we specify a different quantity or a different amount. So a finger, right? Finger is a countable noun, right? I can say I have a finger, right? I can say I have 2 fingers. In fact, I have 10 fingers. But it's a countable noun. We have to say how many we're talking about. If we just say finger, I have finger, it wouldn't work. We have to put an article there because it is a countable noun. We have to specify the amount. And a, and the are all of our quantifiers, right? Or our articles. So when I say the word quantifier, a quantifier tells us how many of something there is. Okay? So a quantifier says how many of something there is. It comes from the word quantity, right? Quantity meaning a certain amount, like how much, right? So a quantifier tells us how much of the noun there is. So a we use for a noun that starts with a consonants. So being like C, B, D, right? And we use before nouns that start with a vowel, A, E, I, O, U. So for example, if we say, I have a cup, okay? I have a cup. A cup is a countable noun, and it starts with a C, right? So if it doesn't start with a vowel, it starts with a C, we have to use A, okay? Conversely, on the other hand, if we have a different countable noun that starts with a vowel like O, we would use an. We would use our article an. She wants to eat an orange. Okay? She wants to eat an orange. We cannot say she wants to eat a orange. People will say that and you'll hear that in English, but that's grammatically incorrect. So, and I see a question there, is money incountable or uncountable? So it would be so that one we would say uncountable, and we'll get there. So some money is countable, some money is not countable. And we'll talk about that, the general concept of it. Okay? So continuing on with this example, with these types, right? Where is the room? So if we say, where is the room? That's another article we can talk about to talk about room. Room is a countable noun. I can say I have 2 rooms. There are 4 rooms. There are some rooms, right? But the quantifier the is going to specify there is 1 room. So these are our articles we have to use if we're only talking about one of a countable noun, right? I have a cup, right? I have a cup. I have a cup. Same thing. You can say a or a, just depending on what you want to say. Both pronunciations are correct. Okay, so this is how we're going to just lay out our basic countable and uncountable nouns, right? Countable nouns, any amount we can count on a countable noun. Uncountable nouns, they can stand alone without anything. So if I have an uncountable noun, right, like hair, I could say she has great hair. I don't have to say she has great hair. She has a great hair, right? That's not what we would say. We would say she has great hair. Okay, that's uncountable. So when we're talking about our uncountable and countable nouns, right, we're going to use what we call quantifiers. Okay, quantifiers are going to talk about how much of something there is. So when you want to say something, you can tell them how much they have. There's three different types of quantifiers. There's quantifiers that we can only use with uncountable nouns. There's quantifiers that we can only use with countable nouns. And then there are some quantifiers that we can use with both countable or uncountable nouns. So these quantifiers include, for uncountable, a little, a bit of, which is similar. A little and a bit of are similar. A great deal of, right? The opposite of a little, a great deal of. Or if we want to ask a question, we use the word much. How much of something? On the other hand, countable is a few, a number of, several, a couple of, or if we ask a question, many. How many of a countable noun? And we'll talk about many and much in a second, but hold on to those, okay? And then for both of them, we can say some. I have some hair, right? We can say that for either one. I have some cups, right? Cups is countable. Hair is not countable, but I can use some for either one. Any, a lot of, plenty of, these can be used for both. And we'll go through examples for both of these. But I want to let you know what those quantifiers are. And I see we have a question in the chat. So in front of the vowel, is there any difference for the pronunciation of the article the? So some people will say the, and some people will say the. The is more old-timey. So it's not as modern as the is now. So if I said, for example, tape, right? If I have tape, right? I would say, could you pass me the tape? Can you pass me the tape? I could say, could you pass me the tape? Either one is correct, but people will often say the rather than the. But that's a very good question. There are going to be some, like I took the train. I took the train. Either one, the is the more common pronunciation, but very good question. Okay, so let's talk about these quantifiers for a second, all right? We have our countable and uncountable nouns, and I have a big list over here that we will go over, all right? We'll go over all of these. But first, let's talk about how much are these quantifiers, okay? So when we say couple, right? So couple is a countable quantifier. And if I say I have a couple of something, that means generally two, okay? A couple is two. So if I say I have a couple of, what's something? I have a couple of chores, right? Chores, meaning cleaning and things that you have to do around the house. That's a chore. I have a couple of chores. That would probably mean you have two chores, okay? If someone says, do you have any candy left? I have a couple of pieces. I have a couple of pieces of candy. That would be two. Now, if we say a few, we generally mean something like three. More than two, probably less than five, okay? That's a few. A few. So if you say, oh, do you have any baseballs, right? So someone wants to go play catch. And if you have any baseballs, you say, I have a few. You probably have about three, okay? Remember, a couple and a few are countable. Those are countable, okay? I see. So if you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat and I will get to it. And I'll go ahead and read the question for you all. So now, in addition to a few or a couple, we have things like plenty or many or several. And that's a lot, right? That's more than three, probably more than four. If I say I have plenty, that means that I have enough that we will not run out. We won't have too many, okay? Many, all right, I have many. I have how many? I have so many baseballs in my garage. That would mean I have a lot, right? I have a lot of them. Several, I have several baseballs. We won't run out, right? We're thinking of a large number. So a couple and a few, right? Just a little bit. Plenty, many, several, we have a lot. Okay, we have a lot with those. So that's just the basic idea of what these countable and uncountable nouns are. So I see we have a couple questions. Let me answer some of those. Okay, so why don't you say 2 candles instead of a couple of candles? That's a great question. You can say either one. We say a couple because sometimes it's it's not very many. So a couple, right? If you think of 2 people together, that's considered a couple. So it's just a different way to say that. So you might have a little bit more than 2 if you have something like, so if it's something that's a lot, if you have a lot of something and you just say I have a couple of those, it's not very many, it's a small amount. It's more than 1, but it's usually around 2. Okay, good question. If we want to say someone has good style, is it a style or just has style? So that's a good question. And that is going to be under one of our depends. Okay. So if we're talking about a specific outfit that someone has, so exactly what I'm wearing now, right? This could be considered a style. But if we want to talk about someone and what they wear in general, right? What their overall style is, that would be uncountable. So I would say he has good style. Everything he wears is stylish. That's good style. If I say he has a good style, that would be the specific outfit that he's wearing, right? Or his hair, right? His hair has a good style. But overall, he has good style. It's a very good question. Very good question. And same with a few candles and not 3 candles. You could say either one. You would say a few because sometimes it might be a little bit more than 3 if you have a lot of something. So if a lot of times people will specifically say, I have 2 candles, I have 3 candles. But if you could just say, you know what, I don't have very many, but I know I have some, I'm going to say I have a few candles, right? But if I say I have a couple of candles, you're going to think that I only have 2. It's a good question. And these are hard because they're not hard and fast rules. They're just more general guidelines of how people will use English. Because if someone says they have a couple, just know they don't have very many. They might only have 2. Someone says they have a few, it's more than 2, but it's probably not like 5. They have just a few, maybe 3 or 4. So those are our quantifiers. It's the same with a little, right? I have a little water left, and I have a little water. You don't have very much water. We don't know how much. We just know it's not very much. And that's the problem with some of these quantifiers is they're not exact amounts. I have a bit. A little versus a bit. A little is less than a bit. I have a bit. So, but we have the other hand on a great deal of. If I have a great deal of water, it means I have a lot of water. I don't know how much, but I know I have a lot. Okay, one more question. We said, how can we use only one? I am the only child in my family, or I am the only one child in my family. So that's a good question. There, you wouldn't need to use a quantifier of 1. You would just say, I am the only child. I am an only child. So we use there, though, you have the, right? You're using the article the for the countable noun child. Because you could say, I am the child in my family. Or you could say, I am the only child in my family. Only just is signifying that you are the only one. There's no one else in the family, right? You're the only child. So you would use that. You would use that with 1, because you could say I have one tape, right? I have one roll of tape. But you could just say I have a tape, right? I have some tape. So I have a roll of tape. You could use either one. So it's a good question. Okay. So these are our quantifiers, right? We've talked about some of our quantifiers. Now let's talk about some of our nouns. Okay. So let's start first with our countable nouns. They're a little bit easier and they're a lot more common. There are more countable nouns than there are uncountable nouns. And they're going to be our general items, our day-to-day items. So, for example, right, we have dog, right? We have animals like a dog, a cat, a bird, a snake, right? Those are all going to be countable nouns. Other things like our fruit, right? We have an orange, a strawberry, an apple. And if you notice when I talk about these nouns, right? When I talk about these nouns, I'm putting an article in front of them. An orange, an apple, a strawberry, right? Those are all countable. A dog, a cat, a bird. Because they're countable, I'm putting an article in front of them, either a or an. And remember, if I'm using the, I'm talking about a specific one, right? We've talked about articles before. A specific article, we use the. So if I just say the snake, that means you know exactly what snake I'm talking about. So like this cup, I could say, oh, I'm holding the cup, right? You know I'm talking about this cup. If I just said I'm holding a cup, it could be any cup, but you know I'm talking about this cup. Okay. We have bottle, glass, a bottle of glass, a dollar, a coin, a credit card, right? Money, the specific pieces of money. This was a question earlier. Is money countable or uncountable? Well, when we're talking about specific pieces of money, like a dollar or a coin or a credit card, that is going to be countable. We're going to learn that the idea of money, right, the abstract general thing of money, is going to be uncountable. Okay? Our phone, right? Our phone is going to be countable. We can count how many phones we have. A song, right? A song is going to be countable. I was singing a song. I sang a couple of songs last night. Right? I sang 2 songs. I sang a couple of songs. So that is going to be our countable nouns. So let's take a little look at some of these. So if we wanted to use some of these words, right, we can make sentences using our quantifiers and our countable nouns, using our countable quantifiers. Okay? So I see a couple of questions in here, so let me answer those real fast before we move on, okay? Okay, so is it correct to say, can I have this one? For example, when ordering something at a store. Yes, you can, because you're saying, can I have this one? It's implied that you're talking about whatever it is that you're holding. So you could say that, but that would be different than using an uncountable or countable noun, because that's a specific part of talking about a specific thing. So you could say if you're buying a wig, right? If you're buying a wig at the store, can I have this one, right? You could use that. That's not a problem. Or can I have this? Not one. Yes, you can also say, can I have this? Because the implied part of what you're talking about there at the store or wherever you are, if you're talking face to face with someone, you don't have to name what it is because people can see it. So if I can say, hey, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this. I don't need to say, I am going to use this roll of tape. I don't have to say that because it's implied based on what I'm holding up and showing you. Okay, it's a good question. So that's a little bit different though. That's not quite countable and uncountable nouns. So that's something you can talk about with your tutor. And is tape countable or not countable? So a roll of tape is countable. Tape in general is going to be uncountable, the idea of tape. Good question. All right. And an earring. Is an earring countable or not countable? An earring is going to be countable. I have an earring. I have an earring. And we're going to use an because earring is a compound noun that starts with a vowel. It starts with E. So I have an earring. Great question. Great. It's a very good example of a compound noun. And we've talked before about what compound nouns are, right? Two nouns stuck together to make one word, ear and ring, earring. And it's going to have an and there. Good question. All right. Is information uncountable? All right. And information, right? Information is going to be, that is a good question. So information, I have the information. I have some information. It's going to be uncountable. I have some information. I have the information. You can't say I have information, right? Or an information. Information is going to be uncountable. Good question. Okay. These are all really good questions. So let's go ahead and look at some examples though. Okay. Lindsay listened to a few songs. Okay. Lindsay listened to a few songs. Well, this is going to be a countable noun, right? And we're going to use a few, right? We're going to use a few. So we know she listened to more than one song. We know she listened to more than 2 songs. She might have listened to 3 or 4 songs. That's a few songs. But she did not listen to a lot of songs or several songs. That's going to be more than a few. Good. Okay. So that is how we're going to use a few songs, right? Our countable noun with our quantifier, a few. I can't use a few on an uncountable noun. I can only use it on a countable noun. Okay? I have several dogs at home, right? I have several dogs at home. Well, we know dogs, right? Dog is a countable noun, okay? So I can use the quantifier several. That means I probably have maybe 4 dogs at home. I have lots of dogs at home. I have several dogs at home, okay? So that is going to be our countable noun with a countable quantifier. And lastly, we can look at you have many credit cards to choose from. So many here, right? You have many credit cards to choose from. That's going to be used with our countable, right? Our countable. You have many credit cards to choose from. Okay. So that's going to be our countable versus uncountable. So I'm seeing a lot of questions in the chat about some of our more abstract nouns. So I'm going to talk about that now. So in here we have motivation, right? Information. So I see in there we talk about he may have a few bits of information. That is countable. That's true. So a few, right, is countable because there we're talking about specific pieces of information, okay? Information in general, he has information, right? That means it is a more abstract. We don't know, we're not sure what type of information he has. We know he has information. When we get down to know specifically what type of information, right? So information about a party, right? He has a few pieces of information about the party. We have to know what's specifically about, excuse me, to know whether it is going to be countable or uncountable. So what we're talking about now is more general things versus specific things, okay? So for example, When we talk about fruit, like an orange, a strawberry, an apple, those are countable. But when we use the word food, right, just the word food, it is uncountable because we're not specific, we're general about what we're talking about. So for example, that information, right, information is uncountable because we're talking about general information. When we're talking about the information that's specific to what it is that we want to know, that is going to be countable. And that's how you can say, I have a bit of information. I know exactly what that information is about. I have a bit of information about the party. That's countable. Okay? Good question. But that's going to be similar. We're going to see that similarly with money, right? The question before, is money uncountable? Well, money is uncountable when we're talking about the general idea of money. If I say I have a lot of money, right? If I say I have a lot of money, that means in general the amount of money that I have is significant. But if I say, I can't say I have a few money, right? I can't say I have a few money. I can say I have a few dollars. I have a few coins, but I can't say I have a few money because money is too general. I can say I have a lot of money. I have some money. I have very little money, right? You can say either one of those. Okay. So I see in there veggies and fruits are unspecific, right? So I have a few fruits. You can say I have a few fruits because those are specific types of food, right? There's specific types of food. It's a good question though. All right. So similar to general things, right? Equipment, right? Equipment, talking about, so for equipment for your work, right? You could use pens, pencils, that can be equipment. That is going to be uncountable because it's general. So these general ideas of something is what's going to make it countable or uncountable. So when it's general, it's uncountable. Similar to abstract ideas. So the question before was motivation, right? Is motivation countable or uncountable? Motivation is uncountable because it's an abstract idea like love or anger or freedom, right? These are abstract ideas. And when I say abstract idea, what I'm referring to is that an idea that you cannot, there's not one specific answer to what that is, right? If I say, what is love, right? There's lots of songs about this. If I say, what is love? It's different for every person, right? It's abstract. This is love, right? You can't just hold up love for someone. Same with motivation. If I say, what is motivation? You can't give me a specific idea of what motivation is, right? People have ideas of what motivation is, but I can't hold it up and say, here is motivation, right? That's not how that works. So that's why it's a abstract idea and it's uncountable. And another important, very specific one is liquids, right? Any liquid. So in here, I have coffee, uncountable. Water, uncountable. Milk, tea, those are all uncountable. I can say I have some tea, I have a little bit of tea, but I can't say I have a few tea or I have a couple of tea. That isn't not the tea, right? The actual liquid of tea, you can't have that, right? Now, if you're talking about the number of cups of tea you drank, you could say, I have had 2 cups of tea today. You could say that. But when we're talking about the liquid itself, right? What we have in here, the liquid itself, that is going to be uncountable. And another three specific ones just because they're commonly used. Hair, bread, music, that's all uncountable. Okay, they're all uncountable. Very good. So looking at the some of the questions again, right? Is rice countable or not countable? Rice is going to be when we're talking about rice in general, right? That's going to be uncountable. It's going to be very similar to something like food, right? Rice. But if you said, because if I say I have a rice, that wouldn't really work. Because you could say I have a bowl of rice. When we talk about a specific bowl of rice, that's going to be countable. When we talk about rice, it would be uncountable. I would say I have a little rice. I have some rice. Good question. When we're talking about it generally, rice in general is going to be uncountable. A bowl of rice is going to be countable. Okay. Advice. Advice is going to be another abstract idea. I can give you some advice. I can give you a little advice, right? I'm talking about these uncountable quantifiers. I can give you a little advice, but I can't say I can give you a few advice. That's another abstract idea that's uncountable. All right. Very good. A pair of spectacles. Yes. Pair of spectacles. I have 3 pairs of spectacles. I have a couple of pairs of spectacles. Right? That's going to be countable. Very good. Yes, you can say a diploma is motivation for you to study further. That's true, but that's specific for you. But still, the noun motivation, right? You can say a diploma is some motivation for me to study further. A diploma is a great deal of motivation. But you can't say, because the motivation is uncountable, you can't say a diploma is several motivation for me, right? Because it's not countable. Motivation's uncountable. So you have to use these uncountable quantifiers if you want to quantify it. But if you notice, if you're a little bit concerned on whether something is countable or uncountable, think about how you used it in a sentence, right? You said a diploma is motivation. You didn't use an article. A diploma is motivation. You didn't need to say a, and, or the. It stands alone. Diploma is motivation for me. It's a good question. Okay. So in looking at these uncountable nouns, let's take a look at some of our potential sentences. So we're going to talk about coffee, right? We're going to talk about coffee. They drank a little coffee, right? We can use a little, right, our uncountable quantifier, with our uncountable noun, coffee, right? Our liquid coffee. They drank a little coffee. Now, if we were to talk about a cup, right? If we're talking about a cup of coffee, that becomes countable because we're talking about this specific cup of coffee. They drank a cup of coffee. But if we're just talking about the liquid inside, the part that we drink, we're talking about an uncountable noun. They drank a little coffee. Okay. So hair, right? I am losing a bit of hair. I hope not, but I am losing a bit of hair, right? Uncountable, because we're talking about hair in general, right? Uncountable, so we can say a bit of. A bit of. All right, that's our uncountable quantifier. Lastly, there is a great deal of love in the world, right? We talk about a great deal of love, right? Love is our abstract idea. I wouldn't say there are a few love. I could say there's a great deal of love. I can't say many. I say a great deal of. So those are going to be our quantifiers with our uncountable nouns, right? Our uncountable nouns, coffee, hair, love, right? We use our uncountable quantifiers. Now there are some we can use both, right? We can use both. So for example, We have pillows on our bed. We have some pillows on our bed, right? There is some coffee in the pot, right? Pillows is countable. Coffee is uncountable. We can use some for both. I don't have any dogs. She doesn't have any money, right? Dogs, countable. Money, uncountable. But we can use our quantifier any for either one, countable or uncountable. So just remember, some, any, a lot of, plenty of, these can be used for countable or uncountable nouns, right? We can use either one with the quantifier with either countable or uncountable. So I want to talk for a second about a specific type, okay? Whether it's whole or part. So, for example, chicken, okay? And this kind of goes back to the rice thing. Chicken. If I am talking about chicken as the food, I can say I like to eat chicken. But if I'm talking about the animal, a chicken, that's going to be countable. So chicken, the food, uncountable. I like to eat a lot of chicken, right? I have a bit of chicken. That is going to be uncountable. But the bird, a chicken, that is going to be countable. Same with the pieces of chicken, a thigh, a breast, a wing. Those are going to be specific pieces of chicken that are countable. So it's whether it's the whole or the part is whether it's going to be countable or uncountable. Okay? I now answer the question real quick about data. Data is going to be uncountable, right? You can't say I have a few data. Say I have a little bit of data, I have some data, because data is a general idea of something, right? Remember, these general ideas, these more general things are going to be uncountable. Okay? The same with pigs, right? A pig is going to be countable, but what we eat, pork, is uncountable. Cake, right? We can have a piece of cake that is countable. I'm going to eat cake, uncountable. We don't know how much, it's unspecified, it's uncountable. Beer. You can have a beer, but you can say, I like beer, the idea of beer. Beer as a concept. That is uncountable. I like a beer is countable. So, for example, for the chickens, right? I like to eat chicken. Yes, I like to eat chicken. That is going to be uncountable. Farmers raise hundreds of chickens, countable, specific bird, right? We bought a beer, one beer, okay, countable. My favorite beer is light beer, uncountable, because it's that type of beer, right? It's a specific type of, it's a general type of beer, it's uncountable. These are going to be difficult, right? These are a little bit difficult because it's whether it's the whole or the piece, right? The whole amount, the general idea is going to be uncountable. The pieces can be countable, okay? I hope that's helpful. That's a little bit confusing and a little bit difficult, but just remember whether you're talking about the whole or the part will depend on whether it's countable or uncountable. So going back to one of the questions, you can say 1 gigabyte of data. That's correct. I have 1 gigabyte of data. You can say that's the amount of data that I have. But that's the specific amount of data that you have on in your computer. But if we're talking about data in general, you're still not saying that it's accountable. You're still not using it as a countable noun in your sentence, right? So even with chicken, right, with the food chicken, you can say I have 2 pounds of chicken. But you're specifying an exact quantity, right? But your noun is still uncountable. So one thing I want to make sure that we're being aware of, right? Countable versus uncountable is how we're using them in our grammar, okay? So I can say I have 2 pounds of chicken, all right? Or I have a gigabyte of data. But the noun itself is still not going to be countable. We're counting an amount of something, but the noun is not countable, okay? So in terms of our grammar, because chicken, right? 2 pounds of chicken, I know we're eating that chicken, but I still can't say I have 2 pounds of chicken. We're not using that article because it's an uncountable noun, okay? Same with data. I have 2 gigabytes of data. I can't say I have 2 gigabytes of data. That's not right because your data is still uncountable. I know that's a little bit confusing and a little bit too nuanced for this class because we're talking about whether something is an countable or uncountable noun, and I know we're mixing it with something that you are quantifying. You're saying an exact amount of something, but your noun that's in the middle of that is still uncountable. So dollar, right? A dollar is countable. $3, $4. Because the other thing you have to think about with your data example, if I say I have 2 data, that doesn't mean anything, right? You can't count that. That doesn't mean, because you're using gigabyte as that unit of measurement for your data, because that is how we have bundled what that noun data can be. But if I say I have 2 data, that doesn't mean anything. If I have $2, we know exactly how many $2 is, right? Because it's countable. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's helpful in determining these general ideas of something being uncountable. Okay? So I hope this has been a helpful class. Let's do some examples, all right? I want to see how you all do, all right? So I've given you lots of examples of countable and uncountable nouns. Unfortunately, there isn't one strong, hard rule. You're going to be able to find an exception for a lot of these. Just remember, for general ideas, there's going to be some general ideas that are going to be countable. But the more you get with these, right, the more practice you have, the better you'll be able to understand it and memorize it. Remember, liquids, as a pretty hard rule, are going to be uncountable. So let's try some examples. I want you to tell me whether this noun is countable or uncountable, and then try to put it into a sentence. Maybe try to use a quantifier if you can, okay? So let's see what we have. So our first word, milk, all right? Is it countable or uncountable? And can we put it in a sentence? Any sentence you'd like. Countable or uncountable? Countable or uncountable? All right. I'm starting to see some answers in the chat here. All right. Milk is uncountable. And we can use a quantifier here, right? If we wanted to say that, you say, I spilled a little milk, right? Because that's our uncountable quantifier. I spilled a little milk. Okay? Spilled it all over the counter. Spilled a little milk. Right? That's uncountable. I want a little milk. Very good. These are uncountable. Milk as a liquid is uncountable. Okay? Let's try another one. How about hair? Hair. Is this countable or uncountable? Countable or uncountable? And can we use it in a sentence? Can we use it in a sentence? Good. I'm starting to see some answers come in the chat. Excellent. Hair is uncountable. Uncountable. We cannot count hair, right? Hair is uncountable. Okay? Now, we can count specific hairs, right? We talk about individual hairs we can count, but hair in general is uncountable. Good. I like your hair, right? I like your hair. All of you out there, you have great hair. That is uncountable. I don't have to use an article before this. I like your hair. I like your the hair. Nope. I like your hair. Good. I have a little hair. Excellent. I have a bit of hair. Very good. Very good. And I see an answer in there talking about plural, right? If it's plural, it's uncountable. That's correct. That's correct. If it's plural, it's uncountable. Okay. Phone. Let's talk about a phone. Is a phone countable or uncountable? You might even be watching this on your phone. Is it countable or uncountable? Good. Good. I'm seeing the answer in there. A phone is countable. It's very good. A phone is countable. You can say, I have a phone, right? I have a few phones. I have some phones. Very good. It's a countable noun. A phone is countable. Good. Good. I have a phone. I have several phones. I don't. But it would be nice if I did. I have a phone. All right. Can phone be uncountable? That's a good question. I'm pretty sure phone as an item is always going to be countable because we can count how many phones there are, a specific item, right? The phone, you have 2 phones, you have 3 phones, you can have a few phones, but you can't say, right? A good check is trying to use an uncountable quantifier. I can't say I have a little bit of phone. Because if I say I have a little bit of phone, people will look at me and say, what does that mean? Right? What do you mean by a little bit of phone? You can't say I have a bit of phone. You have either a whole phone or no phone, right? Phone could be a verb too. I could phone somebody, right? Usually you use it the same as call, to call. So good. So these are countable and uncountable nouns, right? This is nowhere near all of our countable and uncountable nouns. We have thousands, hundreds, but the idea of how we use our countable and uncountable nouns is the same with every single one. So once you realize this is countable, this is not countable, we're going to use the same quantifiers, we're going to use the same articles for each one, okay? So remember our articles, a and the, right? Remember our quantifiers, right? A few, a number of, several, many, right? Remember one more thing before I go, all right? Before we go, one last thing, I forgot. Much and many. This is very important when you're asking a question, okay? When we ask a question and you want to know how many or how much of something there is, we use many for our countable and we use much for uncountable. So for example, if I say, how much water do you have? How much water do you have? I cannot say how many water because water is uncountable. So I use much with uncountable, okay? If I want to talk about apples, a countable noun, how many apples do you want, right? I'm going to use many with my countable, much with my uncountable. All right. That's just if you're asking a question, only if you're asking a question. Because you can't say, I have much water. You wouldn't say, I have much water. It's only for a question. For uncountable. For countable, you can say I have many apples. It's not as common, but it's still grammatically correct. Okay? This is much versus many. All right? Much, uncountable, many, countable. Okay. All right. And with that, I want to thank you all for being here today. I hope this was a helpful lesson. I hope this was, gave you an idea and have you thinking about your countable versus your uncountable nouns and what articles you're going to put in front of them and what quantifiers. If you've missed any of this lesson, it is going to be on our YouTube channel as soon as we end here. You can go back, you can rewatch, you can watch any of our other hundreds of other lessons that we've made for these Cambly Live. They're all on our Cambly YouTube channel. And if you are practicing your English and you need a little bit more help, you can go ahead and join Cambly. There are hundreds of tutors available every single day, any time of the day, to help you, whether you're just starting English or whether you've been learning for years and years and you're just trying to become a little bit more fluent. Thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to see you all in the future, and I hope you have a wonderful morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are. Bye-bye.